Today is Saturday, August 22nd, 2020. And this is Virginia Espino, and I'm interviewing Melinda Nabor for Labor Studies Voces of a Pandemic Story Collection Project. This is a collaborative project between UCLA and Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin. Mindy, I just want you to know that once we've completed this interview, it will be made public on the Digital Public Library of America, as well as shared with Voces Oral History Center. If there's anything that you don't want to answer, if there's a question that I ask or something comes up that you want to not answer or not talk about, just please let me know. Definitely going to honor your wishes about that. So because we're conducting this interview online, we need to get your verbal consent recorded. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and you can let me know if you agree to the terms or if you don't agree to the terms. So UCLA Labor Studies wishes to archive your interview, so preserve it forever, make it available forever, along with any photographs you might want to share. I don't know if you've taken pictures with yourself in a mask or at your job place or anything that you do at home that relates to the pandemic. We're collecting that kind of documentation as well. And that will be shared on the Digital Public Library of America, as well as with the Voces Texas Oral History Center. So do you give UCLA Labor Studies consent to archive your interview and or any other materials at the Digital Public Library of America?
Yes, I do.
And do you grant UCLA Labor Studies right, title, and interest in copyright over the interview and any materials you provide?
Yes, I do.
That means that UCLA will then become the owner of this interview. And the reason why turning over copyright is important is so they can make it available online or to researchers without having to ask your permission. So if you kept copyright, they would have to ask your permission every time somebody wanted to see it. Do you agree to allow UCLA Labor Studies and the Digital Public Library of America to post your interview on the internet where it will be viewed by people worldwide?
Yes, I do.
And do you grant Labor Studies consent to share your interview and other materials with Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin for inclusion in the Voces of a Pandemic Oral History mini project, which will include posting the interview on the internet?
Yes, I do. Okay,
so you didn't fill out the Qualtrics yet, but when you do, you'll see that they're asking a lot of genealogical questions about your family history, where they were born, how old they are, their birth date, and if you're married, a lot of questions. Okay. Answer the ones that you want to, skip the ones that you don't want to. And that information could be kept confidential, or if you agree, that could be shared along with your interview. So do you wish to share the rest of your interview, those questions that you answer, in your public file to researchers at the Benson Library? So that's the University of Texas Library.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Finally, last question. Sometimes Voces Oral History Center receives requests from journalists to use their interviews for some of their articles. So they want to know if you agree to share your email with news sources who might be interested in using some of your some quotes from your interview in their stories.
Yes, I do.
Okay, great. So you agree to everything, and so let's begin. That's my dog. Let me just mute it for a second. Okay, sorry about that. When Hector's away, the dog is crazy because he doesn't obey me. So I'm wondering if you could lower your camera just a touch, because you still have that big space. Yeah, that's better. Yeah, that's better. Perfect. Okay, so can you tell? There you go. There you go. Excellent. Okay. Can you tell me about one thing that brings you joy right now?
One thing that brings me joy is spending time with friends and family and being able to go out for a walk, do Pilates, meet with friends on Zoom.
And is there anything I should know about your background before I continue?
Can you repeat that, please?
Anything you think we should know about your background before we move forward? Anything you want to tell me about your background?
Sure. I'm third generation of Mexican descent, born in the United States. Third generation from Los Angeles. I grew up in the San Gabriel Valley, and I continue to live in the San Gabriel Valley, and I'm proud to be from Los Angeles.
Excellent, excellent. So how do you identify? Latina, Chicana? Oh, I'm sorry.
I identify as Mexican American, Chicana, also as a woman, also as a head of household, and a single mother.
Fantastic. So oh, you already mentioned where you were from. Can you, so today's Saturday, but I'm thinking about like a work week day. If you can think about a typical work week day before COVID, can you walk me through what that would look like? Like when you get up in the morning?
Absolutely. So I used to work a 980 schedule, which means I worked 9-hour days and then had every other Friday off. So 1 week was considered a 44-hour week, and then the short week with the day off would be a 36-hour work week. So on my long work weeks, I started work at 7:30 and my day ended at 5 p.m. That would include me getting ready, waking up probably about 5:45 in the morning, getting myself ready, packing my lunch, getting my day going, and drive out to Compton. In the last year, we moved our office to Carson, so I would allow myself a good 45 minutes to get to the office. My day included starting off at my work site, reviewing emails. Because I am a supervisor and I'm working with a team of mental health providers, and I am a mental health provider, that really includes a lot of reviewing of documentation, approving documentation, attending meetings. So I would review my calendar, allow myself a quiet morning to get started, meaning trying to have no interruptions so I could review documentation, conduct business activities, which include a lot of writing, such as working on performance evaluations. There's always a program or a project to review or work on. So my team is about 6 mental health professionals, and that includes licensed mental health providers from marriage and family therapists, licensed clinical social workers, clinical psychologists, and also medical caseworker. So we work as a team, and throughout the morning and throughout the week, I usually have individual supervision with each clinician. So a typical day could definitely include a couple hours working on documentation, reviewing emails, And then typically around 10 o'clock, I would say we would have an individual supervision. I would try to have at least 2 a day meetings, which would include probably one at 10 and then one at 2 typically. Individual supervision is pretty much part of a mental health provider's work activity and responsibility. So basically, this is where we review cases, we talk about therapeutic issues, we talk about what we call transference, to review how a case may affect us. We process our own feelings about cases. This is a safe place, and it is also a clinical place and an administrative place. So we talk about work issues, we talk about clinical issues, we talk about a lot of trauma because many of our clientele are children dealing with severe issues such as physical abuse, sexual abuse, exposure to domestic violence, anything that would land a child in the Department of Children and Family Services. And many of our clients are in foster care. So the issues we deal with are very serious. We also deal with imminent life or death issues. So we're talking about psychiatric issues that affect a child's mental health. So it's very serious what we deal with. And so when you're a holder of that energy and that type of trauma, as a mental health provider, we also need a place so we can process that because our staff is holding that for their clients, and then we as supervisors are holding that for our staff. And it's a parallel process. So I do the same thing with my supervisor, and she meets with her supervisor. So it's also a part of our mental health culture, and it's also a place where we can feel safe and supported. So typically, that is a part of my role, and that is a very important part. So we really want to make sure that, there's privacy, that people feel safe, that we try to find safe places in a cubicle world. So that's a challenge in and of itself. But so that's a part of what I do as a supervisor. And then there's always something to do, such as meetings, a lot of meetings. We work with, like I said, the Department and Children and Family Services. We're co-located, so basically it means I'm working with the Department of Mental Health as a mental health professional, and we are on site under DCFS, but we're all county providers, but we work very closely with social workers in DCFS because the clients that end up in the system are referred to us, and we conduct mental health assessments. We determine if a child needs treatment. We're a field-based program pre-COVID, so we would go out to the community. We serviced Area 6, which is a very high-need area, which includes Compton, Watts, South Los Angeles, and we follow children out of the county because there's a scarcity of foster homes. So many of our children are placed in Victorville, Lancaster, Palmdale, Moreno Valley areas. So we would go out to the client, conduct mental health assessments from birth to age 21. And some children we keep for what we call basic clients, which are pretty much ongoing treatment cases. So as a part of supervision, we review a client's progress, we review diagnostic information, we review treatment goals, we talk about challenges, we talk about success, We look at the whole picture to see, maybe if there's a need for psychiatry. Does the child need, an additional service that we can offer? Many of our children and teens have been in the system for, could be many years, could be short term. So we're really, responsible for their mental health needs and responding in a timely manner. So many of our meetings are around those issues, collaborating with social workers, attending child and family team meetings, attending what they call staffings, where the child may not be present, but we have to maybe have a kind of an administrative meeting with DCFS. So at times, those meetings can pop up, or we can have them scheduled. But those can be time consuming as well, anywhere from an hour on, because we're talking about strategies to move on a case. We're talking about teaming, trying to outreach and engage maybe with the family member or the client who may be resistant to services. So throughout the day as a supervisor, I also attend those meetings because the staff that I'm supervising attend those meetings as well. So those meetings can be high profile, anywhere from, let's say, a teen who may be at high risk for being hospitalized, maybe AWOLing from a group home, maybe a young teen dealing with CSEC issues, which are issues with commercially sexually exploited children who are trafficked. So there's so many different case scenarios, and we also provide consultation to DCFS social workers because they have so many cases, and they may need to consult with us. They may need to find out about a resource. So we're really there to provide services to the children and families that they serve, and they are also a part of our network of providers that we also support. So any typical day could include many of those meetings, and then there's trainings that we have to keep up with. The Department of Mental Health has very strict guidelines regarding various trainings. There's mandated trainings with cyber safety issues, HIPAA compliance, confidentiality. There's always a training that we need to attend. Also, meeting with my supervisor for our meetings weekly. Also, mandatory trainings for our program. And sometimes there are so many trainings, you're like, where am I going to get the real things that I need to do done? But yeah, so a typical 9-hour day, and there was a good reason for a 9-hour day, because you need it to really get your responsibilities done.
Wow, that's a lot of face-to-face contact that you were engaged in pre-COVID.
Yes.
So some people are saying, well, now we realize some of those meetings we didn't really need. So in your case, can you talk about the meetings that you really do need to have in person, and the ones, well, yeah, let's just talk about the ones that you really think are missed because of COVID.
Okay, so because we're a mental health profession, And because of the way we provide services, obviously the best option would be a face-to-face contact. The human touch, the feeling that you get when you engage with a client, you can never get that. There's no substitute for that. So the part of our magic as being therapists is that face-to-face contact with our clients and our families. So as things have rolled out, you know, we still have a face-to-face contact because we have mental health as an avenue, and it has a place, a very important place. But there's nothing like the human touch. So I would say that many of our meetings, especially the in-person sessions, are definitely, you know, a part of what we do. It would be essential for our work to continue to have face-to-face contact and in-person contact as the first choice to conduct our role as therapists. Also because we're dealing with issues of mental health access for children who have not always had timely access to mental health pre-COVID. We're talking about issues of timeliness. So actually our program is the result of a lawsuit. It was called the KDA lawsuit because children in foster care did not receive access to mental health in a timely manner. And as a result, there were some suicides and devastating outcomes for children in foster care, many of whom are Latino and African American communities. So our program really is, our mission is to provide timely mental health services to children in foster care. And when you are dealing with systems, obviously the best way to team, collaborate, and engage our counterparts with dealing in their system, which is Department of Children and Family Services, families in the community, even within our own department as the Department of Mental Health. And navigating these systems is not easy. Well, it wasn't easy when it was in person, and it's not easy when it's not in person. So the first choice would be in person because, you know, we have to communicate, we have to problem solve, we have to negotiate the needs of the child, and everybody has their focus that they have to achieve because of their system, right? So I would say that the best option, because of being a mental health provider, working with human beings, dealing with their livelihood issues, dealing with families, the best option is always in person. So I don't think we can get around that, but you know, there's always telephone contact, which is good for many things. There's always now, you know, some people did Zoom before just to have some of these kind of meetings, but I would say that, you know, the best option would be, it's not the only option, but I would say pre-COVID for me and my role, and for our teams probably would be face-to-face contact. I can't hear
I'm
you.
sorry, I muted because my dog was barking. So I am unmute. Do you have any examples of of cases where the outcome would have been different had you had that person-to-person contact?
Well, do you mean pre-COVID or now?
Now, like now that you can't have that person-to-person contact, do you have any examples of cases where it illustrates that it still works fine, or it didn't work because you couldn't see people face to face?
Well, we do have the option of mental health, which provides face-to-face contact like we are meeting now. These are platforms that are HIPAA compliant. We have rolled out with some new platforms to make it user friendly for our clients and our providers. And so we do have face-to-face contact, right? It's different. We're able to do psychiatric evaluations. We're able to meet with nurses and other team members that may need to assess a child. Our providers have rolled out with conducting mental health assessments, and they meet weekly for treatment cases. So that is face-to-face contact. It's not in person in the office, but it is still face-to-face contact. So I think now it varies because not everybody knows how to utilize um, technology the same way. Not everybody wants to meet by over the internet, but it is a great option um, to still meet with our clients. And if we didn't have that, I would be very, very concerned because um, it still helps children and we're still able to deliver mental health services. So if we didn't have that platform, now that we're going through the pandemic, I would be very scared. But luckily we do, and we are improving that for families on a day-to-day basis and for clients, making it much easier. So I would think I haven't really seen a case because every case is different. We may offer a mental health session, but maybe the teen doesn't want to even participate in mental health services pre-COVID and now. So that issue, is more of a outreach and engagement, maybe trying to team with the social worker. Um, we had those issues pre-COVID, and we still have them now. But I think in cases where the child really is crying out for help, they want services, the family wants services, um, that's a much easier scenario because just as in pre-COVID and post-COVID, I mean, pre-COVID and now, that those issues would kind of be the same. If a family wants services, they're going to participate and engage in services. If they don't want it, and we're offering, then that has to do with their own choice. But I would say overall, we are seeing a good response to the platform being offered, both in um, community mental health, and I can also say I'm seeing it in the private sector because I do see clients privately, and that option has been a great option for many people needing mental health services due to the pandemic.
Can I ask you about your private practice now? And we will go back to your 9 to 5 job, so to speak. But how do people find you on the private practice?
So I belong to just like an insurance company. You have let's say United Behavioral Health, or many of the Blue Shields, Blue Cross, as a part of the services that they offer to their memberships, mental health is also a service. So as a mental health therapist, I can join the I can join the insurance company as a provider on their listing. So I have to get credentialed. I have to go through the process of becoming certified through their panel. And then once I'm certified, I will start receiving clients for individual therapy. So I've been doing private practice for over 15 years. And at one point, I pretty much was doing it full time. So I had different panels and getting members from different agencies, and also um, referrals um, through friends, through teachers, through people needing therapy. But the bulk comes through the insurance companies. So if a member is in crisis or their child is having a hard time because of anxiety or depression, they call the back of their number where it says mental health on the card, the insurance card, and then they'll say, I live in Whittier, we're looking for a provider, and they may give them like 3 references, and then the member can call and schedule an appointment for services. So pretty much that's how that works. And now I do it probably, I kept my private practice, but I'm not even like part-time. I have about 5 or 6 clients at any given time.
So that would be like 5 sessions a week
That would be about 5 sessions a week, yes.
on top of your regular job.
Yes, on top of my regular job. And also, I started to provide the telemental health. So I don't necessarily have to go to the office, although some people prefer that. But I'm able to also provide services on the computer. So it's not like I'm driving to the office. I can still provide that kind of support. And it doesn't feel like, I'm in the office for 5 hours in addition, because sometimes I could be at home. And, now that I'm able to telework, I'm off at 4:30. I can, take a little break and still see a client or two in the evening. So it doesn't feel like I'm driving to the office, I'm staying there later, I'm getting off later. So I think that's kind of nice.
So it sounds like this pandemic has worked in some ways to your favor as far as commuting and the access to telehealth. How do you think it's impacted the kind of therapy that you provide in your private practice?
Okay. Yes, it has been busier than ever in this field, both in my full-time job and in my private practice. I would say that ever since the pandemic got, you know, pretty strong, we saw an increase in calls from clients and families in distress, families dealing with anxiety, really scared, fearful. So I would say that I just felt, you know, really bad for people calling. They're dealing with really serious issues. So as a provider, you want to offer support and help guide clients and families through this time. I think in my practice, it definitely has changed being able to do telemental health. They were rolling that out really fast because of the needs of families and clients, and um, they've been very accommodating for um, the needs of members, because um, when you're a provider, just like if you were a doctor, there's only certain things you can bill for the insurance company, services that are provided. Um, those guidelines are pretty known and pretty, routine. But as the pandemic rolled out, I definitely saw the insurance company that I'm with being very flexible for providers to provide telemental health, whether that was by phone, whether that was by the virtual platforms. Um, there was no question about it. Members needed services and they wanted providers to be available so we could offer those services. And I think that was a big change because I didn't do telemental health before. I really kind of old school. I like seeing people in person. I like going to the office. I still offered that, and I would ask some of the new clients I was receiving, do you prefer doing telemental health or would you like to come to the office? And most people would like to come to the office. And, I think I was the only mental health provider in the group that I share office space with doing that. And of course, I would meet in the meeting in the waiting room, not in my office. The client would sit way across from me, and we practiced social distancing, but we still have that touch, that personal touch that you can't really get sometimes by Teams or by Zoom or the virtual platform. So I continued to offer that, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed, going to the office still. I felt like I still had some routines because when the pandemic rolled out, um, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy adapting to all the changes, adapting to working at home, um, you know, conducting my role as a supervisor um, in this new change because everybody was trying to figure out how to roll out, and luckily we had the option, and it, has been great to have this option. But in the beginning, it was very, very stressful for me. And I started to have my own level of anxiety. And it wasn't really about the pandemic, it was about the stress of working from home because, I'm pretty good with technology. I'm not like a superwoman with it, but I can figure it out. But still, like conducting business and my role, I have 2 screens at my office. I have an ergonomic chair. I know which applications I need to be in and out of. So then when I came here and would work from home, trying to, sign documents on the PDF form, everything went electronic. I couldn't always do things in a timely manner. And then, you're trying to work on one thing, and then people are needing this, and now the telecommuting log, and just all that kind of stuff, the day-to-day stuff, wasn't easy. And, for a long time, I have a laptop from work because we're a field-based program. So we did have laptops, and we could conduct business, our role as therapists by laptop, and they had access to the internet. So that wasn't new. It was kind of newer for me because I'm pretty much office based, but when everything started to roll out, um, I didn't I didn't have my laptop. I was accessing work through the portal from home. I didn't have all my applications, such as my PDF signature thing, and that was a big deal because I had to sign off on documents, and it's like, oh man, I just would start to cringe, like, man, I'm spending this time, but it's not working, and I didn't realize that it was that PDF app, you know, that was normal. That was no big deal. Being at the office, I could just do it, but I didn't have it like on my home computer to sign those documents. And then when they were first rolling out, there was so many daily changes. Okay, now do it this way. No, now do it that way. Okay, everything we said, now forget about it. Oh, now we need it now. And it's like, I am afraid to look at the computer because it was just like every 5 minutes getting tons of emails. Then the increase of meetings on Zoom. I couldn't get anything done. It's like meeting after meeting, and then because you're working from home, the expectation was you're available to everybody at any time. And it's like, I'm only one person, you know, and I could feel like my chest right now, just with the enormity of everything that was going on. I couldn't handle it anymore. I ended up on a leave. Um, I was so stressed out. I was um, making mistakes, normal things that I wouldn't make mistakes on, that you really have to be on it when you're in this role, like on it or forget it. You know, you need your sleep, you need your routine, you have to be on it. And so I was making mistakes I never thought I would make. And it was like I tripped, I hit my head on the corner of my mantle, I burned myself. I
Oh,
was doing things that were like, what the heck is going on, you know? And then I couldn't sleep. I hurt my back. I fell a couple times, and it was like, you know what? This is not normal. This is not normal. So I ended up having to, you know, take some time off, and I went back to work in July, and I made some changes, you know, to try to have a better life balance. So I feel like I feel like um, people who are responsible, like our higher leadership, and rolling out like the apps and all the other bigger things, the systems things, I feel like they really they got it down now. So there's more predictability and there's more normalcy. So I think everybody was scrambling like from the top down, and we were just trying to figure it out, you know. So one thing that has been good is that, and the message has been consistent, you know, we are doing business. Business is not normal. We're doing the best we can, but obviously we're still trying to do what we have to do. But there was a lot more sensitivity towards our staff. Like, you know, we really need to be there to support each other. We really need to be there to understand, be more understanding. If children are at home and they're schooling their children and you need to have supervision and the kid is running around in the background, oh, well, you know, that's life. We have to deal with it. So the attitude has been more accommodating, being more flexible, um, because some of the staff that I supervise, they have little ones or they're in school, and this was really serious. Like, these are the people providing mental health services. I do not know how they're doing it because they're taking care of school-age children, and then they're trying to figure out how to an assessment on the telehealth platform. These assessments are 14 pages. They look at every aspect of a child's life. Um, we assess babies, children who are born drug addicted or have delays. We do mental health assessments on infants. How do you do that on the internet? That's even a longer assessment. It's no joke. I mean, I have a lot of compassion for the staff who are doing this, and I was like, oh my gosh, I just can't imagine. Like, we got to cut people slack, and yet I'm a supervisor. I was doing what I got to do, but I couldn't do it fast enough. How do you get in between these screens, and how do you meet the meetings, meeting after meeting after meeting? It's like, oh my gosh, if they have one more meeting, I can't do it. Sitting all day, then run to the restroom. I would get up, start my day. I kid you not, in the beginning, it's like, oh my gosh, I haven't even taken a shower. How did this happen? It's 12 now, I can't even eat lunch because I have to have a meeting at 1 o'clock. So I would go, like, I would get up, get ready for like this, but then it's like, okay, I still have to do all these things, and then I'm at home, and I'd rather just get out of the house, be in the office. Then
Well,
I had
thank
to,
you. Thank you for interviewing with me today. I appreciate it.
oh, you're welcome.
Another Zoom meeting.
Then it was like, my daughter ended up being at home. She lost her routine. Then one day she heard me, on a meeting, and she's like, you would rather go to the office instead of work from home? And I said, absolutely. I would really, that for me, that works better. And she's like, well, I have to share something with you. I'm having a really hard time, and I would really prefer you to work from home. And I was like, really? I said, I didn't know you were feeling like this. And when I heard that, I thought, like, I'll work from home. I realized, like, I didn't realize she was dealing with so much. And she said, I don't know what's going on, but this is so scary. It feels like the end of the world. Her classes changed. She lost her job. Um, she couldn't go to the gym anymore. That was her therapy. Um, Seeing her friends, everything changed. So I was like, you know what? If she wants me to work from home, I'm going to work from home. And then my stepdaughter was like, she went through her changes because her program stopped, and has special needs. So it's like, that was her world, and we had to kind of figure out, like, our new routines. And then if you have a meeting and people are walking in the background, it's like, shoot, what do I do? But it's like, oh well, I can't do anything. But luckily for Teams, they have that background thing where you can, I love that. I
I
love
could
that.
never figure out how to do it. It's great.
So anyway, I think after, like, maybe things started to transition, people, you know, went through some serious things. Like, my daughter went through a depression. I had to be here. So that was like, and then my stepdaughter, you know, didn't really have support. So me being here was good because I could still be present. They needed that. I felt good to do that. And we had some routines. So we started to develop routines. My stepdaughter has a program. She would see me working on the computer, then she would work, and then we would have lunch together. Then my daughter started developing some routines, and um, when the weather got better, we would sit out in the patio, walk the dog, try to get out a little bit. So, I think when the weather started to get better, things got better. I started to go into the office maybe 1 or 2 times a week, but then when I was off for 2 months, I was here, but it just felt like the time flew by, and it was almost like, I don't know, it was this almost like everything just, maybe the reality of everything hitting, it just felt like I didn't really want to go out. I just felt more, I felt better at home. I tried really not to go out like to the market unless I had to. I tried to get the things I needed when all at once, you know. Um, my boyfriend was very helpful because he would take the lead on the groceries. I didn't want to go to Costco. I order everything online by Costco now. It was just so stressful to being out in the world, and not being able to go see my dad, not being able to hang out like before, not seeing my family, not seeing my friends. So, you know, people started to get creative, which is good. People would have happy hour on the Zoom. That was nice. I love that. And that was good, being able to have contact with each other. My friend Nancy Solorio organized a Zoom meeting with some friends from Santa Cruz, so that was great. And then I think I attended my friend Yvette's daughter's baby shower through Zoom. That was fun, being able to get ready, even if it was a little bit, just to see your friends, because I know for me it's like I'll start to fall into a depression if I don't have some routines, and I needed to go to work. Like, no, I'm not going to let myself, I'm not going to fall into depression. I need to work on this because I need a routine. Even if it's doing my hair and putting makeup on to attend a meeting, I'm going to do it. I'm going to have some normalcy, So I would get up, get ready, and get ready for my meeting. And so that felt good, and then after I went back, things definitely have been much, much better. And you see the needs, and my needs are nothing compared to what other people are dealing with. So I feel very grateful. I feel very blessed. I feel like I want to help people more, and I'm privileged compared to other people. Like I still get my full pay. I have my job. I get to work from home. I get to go to the office. They're being very, very flexible. It's like I can telecommute every day, or I can go to the office every day, and until otherwise directed. It's like I'm making it work. I can telecommute in the morning, then I can go to the office. I've been telecommuting on Fridays and Mondays, and I try to go to the office like Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Sometimes it varies, but um, compared to what other people are dealing with, losing jobs, losing homes, losing family, dealing with death, dealing with ongoing grief, I feel, very blessed. Like I have my health. My daughter has her health. She's doing better. Our relationship is so much better. Like we've been forced to deal with all these issues staying at home. You know, I'm very thankful that she has shared openly how she feels, and you know, I've been able to provide her with support, and um, also my stepdaughter, I've been, you know, closer to her in many ways, and um, there's been a lot of hard times, but there's been a lot of good times too, and we have gotten creative, and that's been fun, you know, trying to figure out, okay, what are we gonna do now?
So what's the most creative thing that you?
Bathroom and the living room so many times, you know, a day. What are we gonna do now, guys? It's like, okay, we can only make these meals so many times a day, you know, and it's like, okay, we got to get creative. And so that really, you know, helped a lot. And, you
Can
know,
you give
doing
me?
cues.
Yeah. Can I just interrupt you for a second? Can you give
Sure.
me one example of something creative that you've done during the, well, actually, if you could tell me first, back up a little bit, like when did you first hear, um, when did you first learn about COVID? Do you remember when that was?
I remember paying more attention to it. Like, I remember in November hearing about COVID and people getting sick, but I really didn't tune into it probably until January. And I remember just hearing the news and hearing about China and hearing about people getting sick. It seemed so foreign. I didn't really realize until Italy, like, wow, something serious is happening. And then probably like in February, I remember people talking a little bit more about it, hearing about more and more in the news, hearing about how serious this is, about people getting sick and then starting to die. And then probably like at the end of February, I just was like, ooh, this seems very, very serious. And I remember talking to a young lady at our work, um, and she's a student, but she works full time also. But she's on her way to be a doctor. And she was like, this sounds more serious, you know? And I remember talking to her about just people getting sick and, well, what would they do? Like, just starting to ask questions. I remember her asking questions. Well, if this happens, how are they gonna? Are we gonna come to work, or what's gonna happen? And I'm like, I don't know. That's a good question. And then all of a sudden, like mid March, boom, everything from one day to the next just transitioned. It happened so fast, and it was like, okay, we're going to start working from home and then attend this town hall meeting and that town hall meeting, and hearing the mayor, hearing, um, you know, the news, the governor. It's like, oh my gosh, this is so scary. And then all of a sudden, starting to hear about how many deaths a day and infections a day, and then starting to hear about people working at home because they can't go to work. And that's when it hit me, like, for sure, when we started to roll out. But yes, I started to hear about it more and more, I would say, in January, February, and then boom, you know, the change. So um and then ever since then, it was like a day-to-day thing, like so many changes each day, people getting sick. Now it's really close to home now. Like, a person relative is dying, or you see a person's family member getting sick and dying. And hearing more about death. It's so sad, continuing to hear about, you would hear about it in the news, but then I would definitely feel like in the last month and a half, it feels closer to home. Hearing people get infected at the workplace, hearing people lose friends and family on a consistent basis. Oh, such and such passed away, unfortunately, un, uh, like all of a sudden. And so it just seems much more real now, like closer to home.
Have you gotten tested?
I haven't gotten tested, but my daughter did. She she felt the need to get tested, and she came out negative.
So what was the protocol for returning? Did they always allow you to work in the office, or did they at one point forbid it and then allow you to return?
They never forbid it. They allowed the choice to the staff, and at one point it could be 100% telecommuting, but they still are allowing us the choice, which is nice. And probably me and two others of my staff see each other on a regular basis um, in the office, and that's nice because it feels real. Like we're here together, we're supporting each other, we wear our masks, we see DCFS staff. So that feels more normal, but the workplace looks like a ghost town because so many people are commuting. It's kind of weird.
Are you designated an essential worker?
I would think so. I mean, I've never been told you're an essential worker, but I believe I would be. Our staff, I would think we are. So I don't know. Like they've never said. I don't. That's a good question because I guess it's assumed, but I also know that so far we have had the choice. I do know people are being deployed because we're also considered disaster workers. So I guess we're essential workers, right?
You mean to the fires?
No, but to respond to COVID, like when people were housing, they needed mental health providers to help with people in the shelters. So they still haven't filled those positions, and they could redeploy us to respond to those needs. So I know that that's also a part of what the needs are being looked at right now, because the homeless responding to the needs of the homeless, people who are in shelters needing support, needing mental health services. So the Department of Mental Health is responding to these needs, and they could deploy us, if they need to. That's a part of what we sign up for when we become mental county employees, So that's a possibility.
I didn't know that. That's really interesting. I didn't know that. That's really interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Like the military, like the National Reserves.
Kind of, yeah.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
right now I know this week they were talking about finding staff to work what they call the warm line, kind of like the old hotline. So this would be to help with that warm line because there's a need for people to be available, to talk to people who call the warm line. I believe and I know a colleague and friend. She works with the school district, and they have a warm line. So every day people take turns working the warm line because, you know, people are dealing with the stress and they need support. And it's also a part of our role to respond to the needs because suicides are up, DV is up,
What was that?
domestic violence
Oh,
is up. I'm sure child abuse is up, but you know, we weren't hearing about those cases as much because children aren't in school. But I'm sure now that they'll be teaming and going to school remotely, I'm sure teachers are going to be seeing things there, you know, that maybe they didn't catch before because children have been home. So people aren't reporting as much on the child abuse line. Um, but you know, it's good that we have these warm lines because they're calling about anything. Most people are supposed to be, they're there to provide mental health support, but they call about so many things and they help them. You know, it's a way to get help
do you
and
have
find
examples? Do you have any examples of what people are calling about?
out. I know my friend said that people are calling in to find, you know, where they can get mental health support, where they can find out about therapy, where they can find out about if somebody is suicidal or if a child is calling and they're suicidal, calling out for help.
Wow. That's amazing. I I don't know if I have any other questions, but you talked about your daughter Anais, and how about so because we're living during this, I'm sorry, there's a truck outside my window. So we're living during this period of you know, widespread social movements and civil unrest, and has that impacted your work at all? The Black Lives Matter movement, any of the protests? Have you participated in any protests, or have those that activism impacted your work?
Um, I haven't participated in any protests. Um, I think when everything was rolling out, I was just in a dealing with my own health issues, but I support it. I mean, I definitely have been watching the news and hearing about um, the movements, and I think, you know, it's definitely brought more awareness to the workplace because I work in a predominantly African American community, and it's also heavily Latino populated. So, you know, I think the issues of police brutality that has brought awareness. Um, we're being, you know, informed, and people are having meetings um, and presentations on race in the workplace, racism, systemic racism. I just attended a training as one of our meetings as a supervisor, and they're talking about a program they're going to be rolling out and having sessions with leadership throughout our department. So that's coming, and that's all about racism and issues of race, systemic racism. So how that looks in the workplace, what will our role be, having those conversations. So definitely yes. I think there's a movement also within these structures, so that's
Uh-huh.
really positive.
Yeah.
Um, I think, homelessness has definitely been a big, big issue. Um, at the beginning, even way before COVID, but you know, just seeing the amount of people homeless, living in trailers, getting referrals for children living in trailers, not having water. Um, I mean, the conditions are bad, not having access to services that we take for granted, electricity, air conditioner, um, because people can't afford to pay their rent. And you see more encampments in the communities. You see more encampments in places you really didn't see before. So that definitely impacts my work. Um, Making sure that we're looking at resources for families, continuing to deal with housing resources, helping families with food banks, um, trying to, really be available so we can respond to the needs of families and also to the needs of our coworkers because we're looking at the community, but we also have to look within our staffs because they're also affected and it's a ripple effect, So I think just really trying to be humanistic, conscientious, mindfulness, trying to be supportive, trying to take care of yourself, trying to take care of others. So, you know, we can work together and hopefully um, make things better.
If you had the opportunity to talk to our president, what would you tell him as far as what you think is needed for your department of mental health?
At this time,
Yes, and in general.
well, I think um, we're in a crucial time in history. Um, so many changes are happening. Um, so many people are being affected by the pandemic, um, and the disparities are greater than ever. So, you know, the current president, um, the agenda is really focused on um, not the needs of the poor and not the needs of Latinos and not the needs of immigrants and not the needs of um, Black Americans. So, in mental health, I would think that having access and having resources so that, you know, our communities can provide services to those that are most at risk. So maybe having programs that would encourage funding resources so that we can continue to provide services to our communities, um, even though that may not be his agenda, but bringing awareness um, to what the mental health needs are of our communities, of our um, citizens that live in the United States, whether they be documented or undocumented, but they live here. So, you know, having a better health, mental health overall as a nation, starting from our communities and moving broader, that's only going to be a better um, well-being for us as a nation. And so, you know, it starts with ourselves, and it starts with our agenda um, as a nation. So I think prioritizing the mental health needs of, um, for sure for all, but for sure for those who may not have access um, as easily because they don't have insurance, because they don't have the education behind what mental health, mental illnesses, treatment, providing campaigns to educate all of us, because there's so much stigma behind access to care. And if somebody goes to see a therapist, or if somebody goes to see a psychiatrist, there's so much stigma around that. And we shouldn't we shouldn't be judging people who um, seek treatment. We should be supporting them, but there's so much stigma, even amongst professionals, even amongst educated. It's a negative. It's seen as a negative thing. So I think, you know, that starts from the top, and that should also be, I would think, a priority for being the leader of a nation and wanting the well-being of all um, members of society.
Thank you. That was really beautiful. So this will
Oh,
be my last. That was really beautiful. This will be my last question. I didn't quite get your exact title and who you work for. Can you just repeat that? Like, what is your exact title and what is? Why are you laughing?
okay. My exact title is Mental Health Clinical Supervisor, and I work for the Department of Mental Health with Los Angeles County.
Perfect. Thank you. And is there anything you want to share with me before we end? Something that I didn't bring up, a question that you think I should have asked you but didn't?
Um, well, I think you asked, I think that was really good.
Yeah, I didn't even have to ask you too many questions. You answered all of my questions in this
I
really long
really enjoyed
word.
it.
Thank
I really
you.
enjoyed it.
You're a real pro. You definitely have um, just embraced your profession and the expectations of your profession and your supervisory role, and you've really internalized, you know, what the work that you do. So it was really great to, I don't think we would have ever talked about it um,
Wow, I
like
don't think so
socially,
either.
you know, because we talk about it's about our family because we know each other forever.
Yeah,
To get this insight into your work life was really really meaningful for me. Thank you so much, Mindy.
you're
um,
welcome.
I'm going to stop the recording